Alright, little friends, and welcome back to Max Talks About World Building. This time I got it right. On the previous episode, I talked a little bit about fantasy and the ugly face of fantasy, and you all liked that video, and I'm really happy to hear that. I was a little worried when I uploaded it, because I know a lot of people don't like to talk about race, so it was really relieving to hear a lot of people going, hey, thank you for talking about this, it's really important, and thank you for sharing your comments, it means a lot. As someone who creates content, hearing feedback is incredibly meaningful. But with that said, today we're going to be talking about the apocalypse and what happens after that, primarily focusing on what it's really about. Before we go anywhere though, allow me to give you the formal disclaimer and remind you that the following is merely just my opinion, my advice, and what worked for me. Don't take it as gospel, instead take it as the ramblings of a person who happens to look like this. So, a couple of days ago, one of my followers sent me a question on Tumblr, asking if I had any thoughts or any points I would like to make on the post-apocalypse or the apocalypse itself, regardless of its origin, whether it's zombies, weather, radiation, warfare, the apocalypse overall, and I do have points to make. For me, I think that the biggest strength of the post-apocalypse or the apocalypse itself is its ability to show us a world that is cruel, savage, and just flat out scary. No, seriously, like the post-apocalypse gives you license to basically go all the way, go out and create the most savage, cruel world you could imagine. And unfortunately, I find that a lot of books and stories that I've read dealing with the post-apocalypse play it a little safe. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes when I read stories, primarily those set in the post-apocalypse, they have this awful world full of bad people, and you clearly wouldn't want to live in this place. Except that this setting has like havens of safety, places where people can go and gather and, you don't have to worry about being murdered or finding food, and that's nice. You can write whatever you want, but for me, that's not why I like the apocalypse. I mean, I don't like it as an idea, it's an awful, but in fiction, I think it's great because the post-apocalypse deals with one thing above all, and that is the fear of death. Not any death, though. A slow, painful, awful death, and the feeling of despair that things may never, ever get better. That's why I feel that the best way to take advantage of this setting and this sort of story is to focus on that fear, the haunting thoughts in the back of your mind that make you go, is the world ever gonna get better again? Are things gonna get back to the way they used to be? Or are we just slowly going to die out? It's not about feeling hopeless, it's about feeling despair and battling that despair and trying to come out of it better. And it is that struggle that is the best part about the apocalypse, because it forces you to ask those tough, awful questions. Nobody wants to think about the idea of their entire human race fading out into existence and slowly dying out. Nobody likes to think about that, but the apocalypse gives you a great place to tackle that fear. Now, of course, I'm not just gonna tell you what I think. I have 5 questions that you should keep in mind when creating a world, or rather, destroying a world, to set your story in after the apocalypse. Now, these questions are pretty general questions just aimed at getting you to look at your world from a different point of view. Now, with that being said, what are these questions? Really simple. First question, how was the world before the apocalypse? Second question, does anyone remember what the world was like? Because I think there's an element of tremendous fear for the audience to look at a world where people don't remember how things work, where people are oblivious to how great the world used to be before everything went to hell. And now number 3, which is like easily my second most favorite question in this entire lot. What is the one thing that is never, ever going to be regained? That is never going to happen ever again? That is now a relic of ancient times. Number 3, this is good enough to set your entire plot ready, okay? Who is the one person who has power and control in this awful land? And what are they willing to do to maintain control? Because as I've mentioned, and if you've been watching my Max Plays The Walking Dead series, you will know very well that zombies are not scary. I've said this all the time. Zombies are not scary. You know what's scary? People. When there's no need to respect the rules, people will show you who they really are, and they'll show you the darkest elements of their mind. That's why I keep saying, the zombie stories are not about the zombies. It's about the people changed by the world being filled with zombies, and the things that they will do. So consider, what is the single person in this world who has control and power willing to do to maintain it? Keep in mind that this person doesn't have to be an awful person. It could be like the one nice person left in the world who's trying to wrangle up everyone again and try to create a new civilization, and yet still just because there's one good person doesn't mean that everyone in the world is nice. Remember that the best thing about the apocalypse is seeing what it does to people. Talking about the apocalypse doing things to people, question number 5, my favorite question of this entire lot. Imagine yourself in this world. And now consider, what is the one thing, the one single thing that you are terrified or you would be the most terrified of? Seriously, think about it. What is the one thing, if you lived in this world, what is the one thing that you would be the most terrified of? Is it the radiation? Is it the monsters that wander the wasteland? Is it other people? Or is it something as simple as not knowing where you're going to find food or water or anything? Now, you know what I think you should do with that answer to the final question? Make your story about that. Seriously. Take that fear, take the biggest fear that you would have in a world like this, and make the story about that. Seriously. You may be thinking to yourself, Max, I can't write a whole book about characters not being able to find food in the apocalypse. Yes, you can. Who told you you can't? You can do whatever you want. As long as it is exciting to you, as long as it interests you, and you're passionate about it, you can do whatever you want. Let me tell you, another piece of advice that can be categorized as writing advice that sounds just like life advice. Whatever you do in life, whether it is writing or everything else in between, go all the way. Why? You cannot cook rice with warm water. You can only cook rice with boiling water. So, be boiling water. Because, like I told you, the things that bother me the most about the post-apocalyptic genre is how safe it tends to be in some places. There's plenty of post-apocalyptic worlds where I can see myself surviving in because it's not as bad as people think it is. I want you to go all the way. Create a cruel, savage world where there is a real sense of fear and a sense of uncertainty and this feeling of dread and despair that things may never, ever, ever get back to the way they used to be. Because, again, the stories about the post-apocalypse are not about what was lost. They're about the lingering fear that things could get so much more worse. I hope that helps, and I hope I wasn't too intense. But, as always, I like to go all the way when I do things. That's kind of my motto for things. Be passionate about the things you do, and if you're not passionate about them, then don't do them. If you're not going to be boiling water, then don't be warm water. Go all the way and be honest about the things that excite you. Consider this another entry in writing advice that sounds just like life advice. But not really, you know? You know the way I feel about things, and if you're gonna do something, whatever it is, be passionate about it. Whether it is love and relationships, or your work and the art that you create, go all the way and have no fear. But yeah, I hope this helps. And of course, as always, like the video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe if you want more. And if you have any sort of writing question or any other world building question, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I totally want to check them out. I've been enjoying this mini-series, so I can't wait to keep going. Maybe a couple more episodes and then we'll see where it goes. But as always though, thank you for watching. Thank you for spending a little bit of your day with me, and I hope to be seeing you soon. Mwah! I can feel something inside me say, I really don't think you're strong enough now. Do you believe in life after the apocalypse?